All right, hi guys. So we're going to talk about rates and unit rates. So this is kind of similar to the ratios that we did last week, but now we're finding a unit rate for something. So this first problem said that there was 1,500 pages in 12 days. So it wants to know how many pages in 3 days. Okay, so we're going to set it up as a fraction like we did before. So we're going to say 1,500 pages over 12 days. So just like our ratio, this problem does want us to find the unit rate though. So we're not just solving it, we also have to find the unit rate. Okay, so in order to find the unit rate, what we want to do is we want to find out how many pages per day. So we know how many pages in 12 days, we want to know how many pages in 1 day. So to get from 12 to 1, what we have to do is we have to divide by 12. And if I divide by 12 on the bottom, I have to also divide by 12 on the top. Okay, once I divide by 12, 1,500 divided by 12 is 125, and 12 divided by 12 is 1. So we know that we read 125 pages every day, so for 1 day. And then the question was asking us how many in 3 days. So how do I get from 1 to 3? Well, to get from 1 to 3, we have to either use multiplication or division. So I'm going to multiply by 3. And whatever I do on the bottom, I have to do on the top. So I'm going to multiply by 3. Okay, so 125 times 3 is 375 pages, which is the answer that they got up here. And they also wrote the unit rate, which was 125 pages per day, which was found right here in the middle. Now, on this particular problem, if it didn't ask you for the unit rate, you could have gone straight from 12 to 3. What relationship is 12 to 3? If you're going to multiply or you're going to divide? Well, you could have just divided by 4 on the top and the bottom, but that's only for this problem, this specific problem. So some of you may have found that first, but it asked us for the unit rate, so we had to find that unit rate in the middle. Okay. It's also super duper important. If you notice, all of our pages stayed on the top and all of our days stayed on the bottom. You have to keep the same thing on the top and the same thing on the bottom all the time. You can't mix it all up. Okay. All right, let's look at our next problem here. So our next problem says that we have 18 calls in 6 hours. So 18 calls in 6 hours. We don't know how many calls. That's what we want to find out in 11 hours. Okay, so we're going to start by putting in the information we have. So we have 18 calls and we have 6 hours. We want to find a unit rate here. Okay, so in order to find our unit rate here, our unit rate is going to be how many calls per hour. That's going to be our unit rate. So that means we want to find out how many in 1 hour. Okay, so that's how we're going to think about this. So how are we going to get from 6 hours to 1 hour? Remember we have to either multiply or divide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 6 because 6 divided by 6 will give me 1. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to also do to the top. So I'm also going to divide by 6. And 18 divided by 6 is 3. So we know that we have 3 calls per hour. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. So 3 calls per hour. And our question asks us how many calls in 11 hours. So I'm going to put 11 hours down here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get from every 1 hour to figure out how many are in 11 hours. So how can I get from 1 to 11? Well, isn't 1 times 11 11? Okay, so then that means I'm going to also multiply by 11 here. And 3 times 11 is 33. So that means that there's going to be 33 calls in 11 hours. Okay, so in here we are going to type 33 calls in 11 hours. All right, so we're going to look at the last question on this slide. The last question says that we went 540 meters in 8 seconds. We want to know how many meters in 2 seconds. Okay, we do have to find the unit rate. Okay, so our unit rate is going to be blank meters per second. Okay, that's going to be our unit rate that we're trying to find. Okay, so we're going to start with what we have in our problem. So what we have in our problem is 540 meters in 8 seconds. Okay, so the first thing we're going to find is we are going to find our unit rate. So our unit rate was how many meters in 1 second. Okay, so in order to find that, just like last time, we're going to try and get from 8 to 1. So how do I get from 8 to 1? Well, I'm going to divide by 8. Okay, and if I do that on the bottom, I have to do that on the top. So I'm going to divide by 8. And 540 divided by 8 is hard for me. So I'm going to do that on the side here. So I'm going to say 540 divided by 8. Okay, so 8 goes into 54 how many times? I think it's 6 times. And 6 times 8 is 48. So we're going to subtract 48. So 54 minus 48 leaves us with 6 left over. We're going to bring down our 0. And 8 goes into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Okay, so that means we have 4 left over. We're not done because we can't leave a remainder. So that means we're going to add a decimal and a 0 and bring it down. Okay, and 8 goes into 45 times. So that means that this answer is 67.5 meters per second. Okay, so we're also going to fill that in on our unit rate, 67.5 meters per second. Okay, and now our question wanted to know how many meters in 2 seconds. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get from 1 second and get ourselves over to 2 seconds. So to go from 1 to 2, we're going to multiply by 2. So we're going to do the same thing right here. We're going to multiply by 2. So we're going to do 67.5 times 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. We're going to move it 1 decimal place over because we have 1 decimal place up here. So it is 135 meters. So we're going to fill that in. So 135 meters. So it is okay to have a decimal as your unit rate. That is perfectly okay. Okay, now we are going to go on to the second slide for today. All right, on this slide, we're doing the same exact thing as the last slide. However, this time we're dealing with unit price. So we're dealing with money this time instead of minutes or days or hours or seconds. So we're dealing with money. So this first problem says it costs $4.80 for 3 batteries. It wants to know how much it costs for 10 batteries. So we're going to start the same way. We started with our $4.80 and our 3 batteries. And we want to get to 1 battery. So to get from 3 to 1, we divide by 3. And whatever we do on the bottom, we have to do on the top. So we found out that it was $1.60 for every 1 battery. So now we need to go from 1 battery to 10 batteries. So to do that, you're going to multiply by 10. So you're going to multiply by 10 on the top as well. And they got that there was $16 for every 10 batteries. So they were finding out how much it costs per battery. Okay, not how many batteries you can get per dollar, but how much it costs per battery. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to pause the video and I want you guys to go ahead and do questions 8 and 9 on here. Okay, remember that your unit price is how much it costs for one item. So how much it costs for one rose or how much it costs for one pencil. So go ahead and find that and then come back and check your answers. All right, you should be checking your answers. So on number 8, I divided by 12 and got to a unit price of $2.43 per rose. And then I took that and multiplied it by 20 to figure out that it was $48.60 for 20 roses. And then for the last one, I took our price of 92 cents for 4 pencils and I divided it by 4 to figure out that it was 23 cents per pencil. Then I multiplied that by 25 to figure out that 25 pencils cost $5.75. All right, so now you guys are going to go and do your assignment for today.